Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. This is my first video on the channel, and as such, I'm going to start with a review of the camera I use. I have two of these bodies, and I love them to death. These are amazing bodies, and it is the Canon EOS R5, and this thing is a beast. I use it for video, and right away, let's get out of the gate. The overheating has not been an issue in room temperature environments. Now that might change. Right now I live in Minnesota, so rooms are actually fairly cold for most of the year. But I am moving to Texas in a week here, and we'll see if it remains the same there, but the fact that it does not overheat as much as people were complaining about. And it's gotten better with software updates for sure, and hopefully it just continues to get better. So right out of the gate, let's talk about my favorite things about this camera specifically. Let's talk about IBIS. IBIS in this camera, one of the best things I've ever used. It is amazing, and it really does make a difference, especially for someone like me who so far has mostly done photography with this, and the IBIS has been incredible. You can get some really low shutter speeds with this camera, handheld, no need of a tripod, no need to have a monopod. Dark environments, drop that shutter down, assuming you're not shooting something that's moving fast, and you can get some bangers with this thing. Great feature, love it. Second thing I love about this camera is the megapixel count, which is great when I'm shooting video. It's also great when you're taking photos, because as somebody who's relatively, I'm gonna say new, I've been shooting for about 3 years, and I've had a 60 Mark II, an EOS R, and now this guy. And this is where I started doing professional stuff, not just on vacations or at home just playing around, learning the cameras. This is the first one I've had that's real, and there's still times, even with a big lens like this 800mm lens, you still just sometimes can't get close enough to things, and especially with this lens at night and when it starts getting dark out, I'll run it with this 2x converter, but when it starts getting dark out at night, then we're getting to the point of I can't use this anymore, but I can crop in, and megapixels do make a difference when you're cropping in like that, to an extent. That's not the most important thing in the world, but it does make a difference. And like right now, I can shoot in 4K video, and that is a huge help as well. As more and more things start being able to watch in 4K, as more and more people start to watch things in 4K, or even 8K is coming into some TVs, it is important to me to have that in the camera with the 4K, with the 120. I mean, it's got 1080p 120 now too, but it's very important for me to have those things to kind of future-proof my content or my videos from here on out. Moving on, the next thing that I love about this camera, and it's a love-hate relationship, is the dual card slots right here. Love these things. Other cameras, I have had cards go corrupt, even as somebody who's not driving them daily all the time. I've had some cards go corrupt. Having two is great, love it. You get the redundancy for photography at least. It'd be great if they would have done it for video, but hopefully that'll come on the R3 or R1 that's being rumored around. We'll see though. But it's at the same time, at this price point, it is great that they are different because they're not cheap. I'll show you the two cards that I have in here and what they cost, and it is not a pretty number. You don't want to have to be buying a ton of these memory cards, so hopefully they last longer because they're more expensive ones, but at the same time, with the redundancy, I don't have to worry quite as much about losing that, precious photos for an event, or a one time, like, you either got the shot or you didn't, and then it's not happening again. It's not like a studio setup. Alright, so I've talked mostly good things about this camera so far. We should talk about some of the downsides. I already covered that the card slots are a plus and a minus at the same time. Understand at this price point there's a little bit pick and choose your features here, and so that's totally fine. One of the things that I'm unsure of on this camera is the need of the joystick. It's not necessarily a bad thing that it's there. I never use it. I set the autofocus to this bottom right corner of the screen, and that is all I use to focus, to drag around. Other than that, the IAF and stuff like that, another plus I guess, but the IAF and the tracking of this camera is out of this world. It follows so quick, so well. For a local place around here, I shot some dog photos because it's a dog daycare for Easter and Christmas and stuff, and some of those dogs do not sit still, so all you're trying to do is get them in the frame, and then in focus, you're just letting the camera try and figure that out. That's been a huge plus too. But like I said, the joystick on here, I don't feel like it's necessary. I would have liked to have another customizable button almost here to be completely straightforward. It'd be a great spot to put a little spin wheel or something for your ISO or aperture, because the way I run this camera as of right now is your shutter speeds, this top scroll wheel, and then I have this set to ISO, and then the bottom scroll wheel is set to whatever it's called, aperture. But it'd be nice if I could leave the mode button, or like leave that set button away, or the scroll by the set, and just use another scroll wheel up there or something. Another negative about this camera, battery life. Not amazing. I have 2 grips and I have 2 of these cameras, and I have 1,000,000 batteries, because you will not get through an entire shoot with 1 battery, most likely. I mean, if you're shooting for more than like an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're gonna burn through battery pretty quick, especially if you're doing hybrid coverage of something. And for that reason, battery life sucks, but like I said, battery grip kind of solves that. So I would just recommend, if you plan on one of these cameras, you better be planning on at least the battery grip, whether it's the super advanced Wi-Fi tethering one or if it's just the basic one. I only have the basic ones and I've been fine with that. Just know if you're getting this camera, I would go out of your way, just get the battery grip, get extra batteries. And on top of that, it's nice having the battery grip just so you can go into vertical and still have the shutter button up here and it feels natural, versus trying to do, I don't even know what you'd do to try and hit all the stuff here while you're holding it. It just wouldn't work well. Just get the battery grip. Just get it. Other than that, I don't have too much negative to say about this camera, to be completely honest. It's a great all-arounder. Obviously not going to be their best camera that they're going to put out. That's where the R3 and the R1 comes in. And we'll see what those bring as they start coming to market, since Canon is still pretty new to the mirrorless world here. As the last thing I do want to say is these lenses that you can get for this camera. The 15-35 incredible lens. Everyone knows this lens. Everyone uses this lens, and it is sharp. It's 15-35. You're not going to really find a lens that's bad today. The only thing I will go out of my way to say about the lenses is this 28-70 has been my go-to lens for almost everything, and I mean that. I bought 2 prime lenses when I bought this camera, and it was the 50mm 1.8 and the 85 f2 macro lens, and that's just because I wanted a macro lens that was native. And the 50mm was just so I had one for shooting like this while I talked about this lens, and just as a backup in case something goes wrong. But this 28-70 f2 lens, the one to buy if you're getting this camera. If you shoot events or anything like that, this camera lens. Ooh, I have the 630th one of these made. This lens is awesome. To be able to zoom in, zoom out, stay at f2, you know, it's basically a prime at f2, but you're got the range of a 24-70 almost, and that is well worth the trade-off, well worth the price. It is expensive, I will admit that, but you're getting a lot for this lens, and if it saves you from switching lens in the middle of something, or if you are doing a studio shoot with something that won't sit still, someone that won't sit still, or dogs that won't sit still, something like this where you can quickly zoom in and out and just worry about getting them in the frame. You might have to crop later, but there are circumstances where you're just, your job's fast paced, you're trying to get it done quickly, they want it done quickly because they want same day photos or something, and you just don't have the time to be trying to get each dog, in perfectly, and then you can just go back and through Lightroom and go real quick through editing and cropping those photos. This lens is great to compensate for being a bad photographer. Those fast-paced environments where you want that prime look, you want that prime feel, but you just don't have the ability to shoot with the prime because you need that quick zooming, that quick moving back and forth, fast-paced environment. Great lens, worth the buy. The only other big gripe I want to talk about, and it works with the 800 f11, and that is a fantastic combination during any time of the day that's not dark out or sunset or sunrise. You can push it a little bit because this camera can handle quite high ISOs. Most cameras can today. I've comfortably pushed it up to 8,000, 10,000. You can really push this camera. This does not work with the 70-200mm RF lens, and it is frustrating to me because this setup, awesome, great, not great once it gets dark out. This setup, not the same amount of reach, but awesome, great, and could be amazing if they could work together, but they don't. So that sucks. Maybe a new version of this will come along where it will, or maybe we'll just get, hopefully they bring, I want another 200-400 with a 1x or 1.4x teleconverter. That would be awesome. Or if they can put a 2x in there, that would even be more awesome. But this is an incredible sharp teleconverter. And like I said, if you're a wildlife photographer with that 800mm right here, this combination you cannot beat, especially on the RF system, especially for the price point. And the other great thing about the lens system is the $100 EF to RF teleconverter. Not teleconverter, converter. That is another great thing to pick up if you're trying to switch from EF to the RF system and you can't afford all the fancy lenses yet like I have here. I would pick that up, no questions asked. That'll be a great pickup for anyone trying to jump into these newer cameras with the mirrorless system as just a starting point to get going. And even some lenses that Canon has not brought to the RF system yet, it's great to hold on to those and just buy that $100 converter for now. And it's just an awesome pickup. You can't go wrong with it. I would totally recommend it. And I think that's pretty much all I got to say about this camera. I've gotten quite a bit of use out of it, but this past year since it came out, it's just been COVID, so I haven't had a ton of time to shoot with it. But so far, I love this thing. I don't think you could go wrong buying this if you want to stick in the Canon system, or you're just trying to get into the mirrorless system. It's between this or the Sonys, really. Or if you're thinking about going to Sony, you can't go wrong with these newer mirrorless cameras. They are awesome. It is a great system, well worth the pickup, especially as Canon releases more and more lenses, and I'm looking forward to that RF 100 with the SA control. That thing looks awesome coming at the end of July here. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Stay tuned for future ones as I try to figure out an upload schedule, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.